1869, an American journalist, Charles Francis Hall, found these eyewitnesses when he spent 5 years in the Canadian Arctic, often living with Inuit families.
Did you ask where these people came from, what direction they were walking from?
He met dozens of indigenous people who retained detailed memories of Franklin's crew and their ships. Hall carefully recorded their testimony, but once again, it was discounted by the British, who considered the Inuit to be unreliable. Russell Potter has made a new study of Hall's notebooks, digging them out of an archive at the Smithsonian where they'd been hidden away for more than 100 years.
Hall was just a very diligent man. He trusted the Inuit. He believed in their stories. He carefully corroborated one story with another to try to see how accurate that was likely to be. It matches very well with the physical evidence we have. It really is a highly accurate and amazingly well-preserved oral tradition.
The Inuit told of an abandoned camp, a tent place, as Hall translated it. And it was a grisly sight.
And they gave him a very vivid description of this place. They had seen tents on the land, bodies inside the tents, abandoned equipment.
The Inuit placed the location of the camp somewhere on King William Island, the same island where the abandoned boat and the note had been discovered. They described the bodies they saw there. They said that the faces were black, a symptom of frostbite. They also said that the insides of the men's mouths were black as well. And that could only mean one thing. 3 years into their Arctic journey, scurvy was ravaging the men. The British Navy had long known that lemon juice could stave off the disease. But what they didn't know is that the active ingredient, vitamin C, loses its potency over time. By 1848, the men would have begun to suffer the terrible effects of the disease.
The first symptoms of scurvy are a sort of a general lassitude and a weakness, and it mainly affects the gums. They become swollen, they become purple. The slightest touch means they bleed very, very easily. As it develops, the bleeding goes on everywhere. You can get bleeding into your eyes, you get bleeding into your muscles, and this is particularly painful. The main muscle that you're using to try and pull this sledge through the snow, and you've got this agonizing bleeding into the muscles and into the joints, so it would have just slowly but horrendously killed them.
The men would have recognized the symptoms of scurvy, but they wouldn't have recognized the symptoms of an even more insidious illness that may have been affecting them. While performing autopsies on the 3 young sailors buried on Beechy Island, the investigators also removed hair and bone tissue for later analysis. In a Canadian laboratory, scientists found something surprising in those samples. Levels of lead, 6 to 10 times higher than normal. Enough to cause severe lead poisoning. Where did it come from? Some suggested that the lead levels could have been caused by the industrial air pollution of Victorian England. But Anne Keenleyside, a Canadian anthropologist, decided to examine the evidence from a new angle. First, Keenleyside's test confirmed the extraordinary levels of lead in the bodies.
They were so high that these individuals would have almost certainly been suffering from serious physiological and neurological problems.
Then, using a process called X-ray fluorescence, she discovered the lead concentration was higher in soft, spongy bones than in other places in the body. It was a vital clue, because soft bones, like the vertebrae, regenerate themselves every few years.
These individuals were exposed to this lead over a fairly recent period of time before their death. So this was short-term exposure from some source on the expedition.
Based on her finding, researchers took another look at the clues found at Beachy. They found that the food cans had been sealed with solder, a soft metal compound that contains lead. Chemical analysis showed that the lead in the cans matched the lead found in the bodies.
There's like a fingerprint that was found in the bodies, in the organs, in the tissues, in the bone, and that was the smoking gun.
Apparently, the lead had contaminated the food, causing lead poisoning, a deadly illness. Symptoms include fatigue, confusion, and paranoia. Not enough by itself to cause death, but if the men were weakened by illness, the poison would have been a devastating complication.
When you combine lead and scurvy, you suddenly have this tag team undermining the health of the crewmen. It really was a recipe for a mass disaster.
And the key ingredient in that recipe? The very technology that was meant to keep them alive.
We will never starve again. It will nourish us through winter, spring, and summer.
In the autumn of 1848, the fourth winter in the Arctic, the window for escape was rapidly closing. As the men became weakened by hunger and disease, the bonds between them began to unravel.
It's clear from the Inuit testimony that at this point the traditional discipline is beginning to break down. The men are separating into different groups, possibly hostile to one another. Some are heading back to the ships, some camped on the land, some walking out by their own directions. None of them under the traditional central command that the Navy would expect. It's really the beginning of the end for them. Everyone is trying to find their own solution.
That breakdown in morale was starkly apparent from Inuit testimony, describing an incident that took place on one of the ships still trapped in the ice off the coast of King William Island. An elderly woman reported to Hall that a man from her village had come upon a group of survivors on board that vessel.
The Inuit went to the ship all alone. He said there were men there. He said they had black faces, black hands, black clothes on, were black all over. This Inuit was very alarmed because they would not let him get away. Then a captain came out of the cabin and put a stop to it.
Leave him!
Then the captain took this Inuit down with him into his
There
cabin.
is a tent.
He told him to look over to the land where there are men living in a big tent. He said neither the Inuit nor any of his people must ever go there.
You must not go there. You must go. 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 Do not come here.
The Inuit were not told why some of the men were living separately. But in 1994, human bone fragments discovered on King William Island suggested one chilling possibility. Anne Keenleyside tested these bones as well and found that they also contained lead from the food supply, linking them to the Franklin expedition. Then she examined the surface of the bones under a powerful electron microscope.
We saw very distinct cut marks. These were quite different from animal tooth marks. These looked like very definite cut marks, as if they were made by some kind of a knife or metal blade.
Keenleyside then plotted the pattern of the cut marks on a skeleton.
A lot of the cuts were located in the vicinity of the joints. some of the bones that would have been covered by a lot of flesh or soft tissue. We also found cuts, interestingly, in the bones of the hands and feet. And the hands and feet are probably the most human aspects of the body apart from the face. And the fact that we were finding cuts in those locations suggested to me that perhaps these individuals were intentionally removing those more human aspects of the body. I think this evidence is strongly suggestive of cannibalism among these Franklin crew members. I don't see any other possible explanation that would account for those cut marks.
Keenly-Side's tests finally corroborated the Inuit accounts of cannibalism, recorded both by the Scottish surveyor John Ray and the American journalist Charles Hall. The same testimony despised and discounted by the British for over a century. According to other Inuit eyewitnesses, not all of the men stayed on or near the ships. In Hall's records are the words of two elderly Inuit called Takita and Owa, who described an encounter with a small band of men walking south on the polar ice.
We were out sealing when we saw something on the ice. As they drew nearer, we realized it was white men. They asked us for food.
Can you help us? We need food. Yes, we...
The officer also signaled that two ships lay in the ice to the north.
We have two ships.
Then he made a motion of falling sideways, whistling and blowing.
They're stuck.
It was the sound of a ship being crushed in the ice.
They're broken. We're very hungry.
The Inuit stayed for the night and gave the men some seal meat. But they were on a hunting expedition and had to leave the next day.
Early next morning we set off. The leader tried to make us stop, but we were in a hurry and did not know the man was starving.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
Inuit simply packed up and left. And when you think about it, that seems like a terrible thing, but it's really an act of self-preservation. There's no way that a small band of Inuit, even the most skilled hunters, could have kept alive 30 starving men in the middle of that landscape. There just wasn't enough food even for their own families. They didn't really have any choice.
In recent years, a few skeletal remains have turned up along a 30-mile stretch of King William Island. These bones tell the grim tale of what may have happened to those who never gave up trying to walk to safety. At first, they buried their dead in makeshift graves. But then, weakened by cold and hunger, the rest simply died and were found where they fell. After such a long struggle, when death finally came, it may have felt like a welcome release.
In the Arctic, you feel like the elements are not passive. You feel like you're involved in some malevolent force. When you experience extreme cold for the first time, it's like a glove closing around you. You feel like you don't want to fight, you want to give in, you want to close down your senses. After a time, it's almost as if the cold has seeped through to your heart. And I don't mean your physical heart, I mean your soul, your very being, because you feel like no longer fighting. And once you've given up that fight, and you just want to sleep, you just want to become part of that oblivion.
The final report in Hall's notes came from an Inuit hunter who claimed to have found 4 white men half dead on the ice, sometime around 1851. He sheltered them for the winter. When the spring came, they gave him an officer's sword as a gesture of thanks. Then they said goodbye and headed for home, never to be seen again. Piece by piece throughout the 1850s, news of the relics uncovered by the search parties made its way back to Britain. In 1859, 14 years after Franklin left England, the search was officially called off. Lady Franklin never gave up her hope that some members of the expedition may have survived, even though she had learned from the note that her husband was dead.
What secrets may be hidden within those wrecked or stranded ships, we know not. What may be buried in the graves of our unhappy countrymen, or in caches not yet discovered, we have yet to learn, and thus left in ignorance and darkness, with so little obtained. Can it be fitting to pronounce that the fate of the expedition has been ascertained?
For years, historians and scientists have searched for clues to the fate of the Franklin expedition. And at last, their evidence taken together offers a plausible answer to this enduring mystery. After sailing south through Peel Sound, Franklin's men became trapped in the ice off King William Island. They tried to walk south to safety, but exposure, lead poisoning, and scurvy crippled them. Those who could made it back to the ships to wait for rescue that never came. Another group camped nearby, possibly ostracized from their brethren for having resorted to cannibalism. 2 years later, some Inuit encountered a group of 30 men walking south. These men died one by one along the coast of King William Island. Finally, after 6 years lost in the Arctic, 4 men were still trying to make it home when they encountered a group of Inuit.
I think it's fairly clear that this expedition just wasn't prepared for some of the things that could happen. They hadn't planned to hunt or live off the land. They didn't have any provision for doing so. They had made a lot of assumptions about what would work and how they would get through, and they were extraordinarily optimistic assumptions, as it's turned out. I think that's what makes it so tragic.
Britain's hopes of being first to sail all the way through the polar ice died with Sir John Franklin and his crew. But the lost expedition did help to complete the map of the Arctic. Franklin's trail led search parties into uncharted waters that turned out to be the long-sought link between the Atlantic and the Pacific, finally proving the existence of the Northwest Passage.
Coming up, the quest for the Northwest Passage continues. More than 50 years later, one man and a small crew tried once again to conquer the deadly ice maze.
What has not been accomplished with large vessels and brute force, I will attempt with a small vessel.
What did they learn from Franklin's tragedy? And what will this unforgiving land hold for them?
Came up!
The Arctic Passage continues right now on Nova.
On Nova's website,
to order Holy Warriors on video cassette or DVD, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.
This PBS show will return in a moment.
Expect Miss Fancy Day as our new...
Little water it takes to actually float the rivers. Right now we're at low water conditions, and there's no situation this time of year that you weren't able to use the pontoons to float the Lamoille. You can float the Winooski, the Connecticut River, and it just opens up a lot of waterways that people would normally wade. If you venture off 2 or 3 pools downriver from the more popular fishing spots, you're probably going to have the river to yourself.
Snowflake, the world's only known white gorilla. He fueled our fascination and curiosity and showed us how much we have yet to learn about an animal so much like us. Next time on Nature.
Tune in Sunday night at 8 on Vermont Public Television.
Financial support for the programming on Vermont Public Television comes from VPT members like you and by Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility, business people networking to improve their workplace, community, and environment, making a profit, making a difference.
Local broadcast of American Experience on Vermont Public Television is funded in part by Green Mountain National Golf Course, Killington, Vermont. 18 holes of championship golf, offering individual and corporate memberships, group outings, and tournament services open to the public. Funding for this program is also provided by contributing members like you.
Welcome to the future. PBS Digital.
To a packed arena on Long Island for what would be her last big shooting exhibition. Even at age 62, Annie Oakley never missed. She was one of the greatest sharpshooters of all time, thrilling crowds across America and Europe, feted by princes and presidents, the first American woman ever to become a superstar. Yet Oakley's beginnings were more than humble, her childhood horrific. But she had built a career, doing what she loved, and excelling in a man's world. And when all she had worked for nearly came crashing down, she waged the most intense battle of her life, determined never to fall back into the crippling poverty she had known, determined to save her reputation.
Underlying everything that Annie Oakley said or did was an anger that I think was founded on the injustices of her own early life. The hatred of everything that was wrong, that everything that stood in the way of a person being able to realize herself.
American Experience is made possible by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation to enhance public understanding of the role of technology. The foundation also seeks to portray the lives of the men and women engaged in scientific and technological pursuit.
At the Scotts Company, we help make gardens more beautiful, lawns greener, trees taller. If there's a better business to be in, please let us know.
At Liberty Mutual Insurance, we do everything we can to help prevent accidents and make America a safer place. Liberty Mutual is proud to support American Experience.
This program has been made possible by a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities.
American Experience is also made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. Stay tuned for scenes from the next American Experience. But first,
Wednesday on PBS, American Masters goes to the movies.
It's Ringo!
With filmmaker John Ford.
One of the real pioneers of how you tell stories with pictures.
And the legend he launched, John Wayne.
John Ford felt that Duke was almost like personal property.
In their long and complex working relationship, they created lasting images that came to define the very character of America itself.
They taught us how to be men.
John Ford and John Wayne, American Masters, Wednesday night on most PBS stations.
There's more about Annie Oakley at American Experience Online. See posters from the Wild West show. Access a timeline of Oakley's life. And explore her life in a man's world. All this and more at pbs.org. American Experience's Annie Oakley is available on videocassette or DVD. To order, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS. Next time on American Experience, they said it couldn't be done.
Someone you know who drives one. Programs on Vermont Public Television are also supported by contributing members like you.
Tune into VPT on Wednesday, May 24th for Teen Night as we explore issues facing Vermont teens, including the broadcast premiere of The Voices Project, written and performed by Vermont teens. We've got other teen-focused activities going on all that week. Online chats, forums, live radio talks, house parties, and more. For a complete rundown, go to whataboutteens.com. It's a multimedia week, and it's focused on Vermont teenagers. See the details at whataboutteens.com and join us.
Behind the lies, behind the hate, behind the evil, one man was behind it all.
I set the propaganda machinery in motion. Now we will show what the apparatus can achieve.
Go inside the Third Reich when Kenneth Branagh reads from the secret diaries of Joseph Goebbels.
You can't help liking him as a person.
The man behind Hitler on American Experience.
Join us Monday evening at 9 on VPT.
Local broadcast of Globe Trekker on Vermont Public Television is supported in part by Plaza Volare at the Sheraton 4 Points in Dorval, specializing in corporate conferences, wedding receptions, and events for all occasions. By Delamore premium pasta sauces with no added salt or sugar. Family recipes from our grandmother Philomena, made locally in Vermont for 2 decades. Delamore sauces, available at Hannaford supermarkets. By Milne Travel American Express, in their 3rd decade of serving northern New England's vacation and business travelers, with locations in Burlington, Barrie, Middlebury, and West Lebanon. Funding is also provided by contributing members like you.
Funding for this program is provided by Subaru. Whoever said getting there is half the fun only got halfway there. Subaru, all-wheel drive, and always proud sponsor of Globe Trekker.
The land of flat prairies and towering skyscrapers, lost highways and last frontiers, of Great Lakes and hip-hop breaks, a land of old customs and thriving modern progress. I'm in the beating heart of the nation. I'm in the heartland of America, otherwise known as Midwest USA!
The Midwest is situated bang in the middle of the USA, punctured by the Great Lakes of Superior, Michigan, Huron in the north, and Erie in the west. Starting my route in Chicago, I'll be winding my way down the state of Illinois along the historic Route 66. From there, I head to Ohio to visit the Amish community before crossing the Michigan border to Detroit. I end my journey on the Great Lakes in Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Wild onion is the translation of the Native American word Chicago. Chicago, birthplace of some of the most wonderful, groundbreaking innovations of the 20th century, the electric iron, the grain reaper, the department store refund, the zipper, the window envelope, the winding watch, the first nuclear bomb, George Pullman's railroad sleeping car, the Ferris wheel, the bowling tournament, and most obviously, the steel frame skyscraper.
Chicago skyscrapers rose from the ashes of a great fire in 1871, which razed the entire city to the ground. Enter visionary architect William the Baron Jenney, who dreamt up giant structures of steel and glass and created the world's first skyscraper.
This is the Monadnock Building, but in 1891, just 20 years after the city was burned to the ground, this was the tallest building in the world. At the time, most of the buildings around here were 5 stories tall, so when this thing went up, people were amazed. This is called a Segway. It's really, really fun and it's easy to use.
The Segway is a 2-wheeled electric scooter that can be used on roads and sidewalks.
And this is the earliest architectural experiment built in 1891, Jenney's Manhattan Building.
It's this whole series of all of these vertical floors stacked on top of each other. So at the base, we have this kind of glassed, open-in area for shops, businesses. Then we've got these 2 floors of this really heavy granite, and it almost looks like it's going to cave down into those glass floors there. Then we've got 6 floors of this beautiful pressed brick, yeah, with all the round bay windows that you see there, and all those terracotta details, the flowers and the faces and all of these.
Okay. This is it. The skyscraper of skyscrapers, the Sears Tower. Built in 1973, standing at a staggering 1,454 feet, 110 stories tall. Depending on who you talk to, this is the first, second, or third tallest building in the world. I think I can get through here. He's not coming in. Do you work here?
Yes, I do.
You do? Scott? You
Yes.
work in the building?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. What do you do?
Do the maintenance on the elevators.
Maintenance, right? Oh, lots of maintenance, I bet. Lots
Yes.
of
Oh, yeah.
ups and downs.
Yeah. I also work on building the building.
You built the
Top to
building?
bottom, yes.
You were one of the builders?
Yes.
This is Scott. In what year?
1972.
How old were you?
I was 25.
25. You look really buff, huh? You're a weightlifter? Yeah? I just got to get a shot of this, Scott.
Oh, it's a good shot.
Do you ever feel the building moving?
Oh, yeah. You could feel it very slightly. You go in the toilets. The toilets are going up and down. The water.
Al's Number 1 is an institution in Chicago and is found in the Little Italy enclave of Greektown. I've heard he serves up the best Italian beef sandwiches in the Midwest.
Wow. How do you hold this?
What they do is we call it Italian stance. It's put our arms like this,
Like
back,
this? Kind of like
and
that?
put your face into it. There you go.
If you're a vegetarian, you're coming to the Midwest, good luck. Around here, it's meat, meat, meat. But there's a historical reason behind that. From 1890 to 1920, 2.5 million Europeans came to Chicago looking for work, and they wanted meat. At that time, Chicago was as well known for its stockyards as it was for its railways. You heard 2 sounds back then. Ooh, and
We have the most beautiful architecture. We have the best lakeshore, the best lakefronts, the best beaches, the greatest, most beautiful parks. We have ethnicities from all over the world. I myself, I'm half Polish and half Mexican. We have the second largest Polish population in the world. We have ethnicities such as Chinese and Koreans and Greeks, black and white, all living here in Chicago.
For all its modern innovations, Chicago is still known as the home of gangster Al Capone. I'm taking an Untouchables bus tour to visit some of his old joints.
Hi, Toots. How you doing? I'm Southside. Welcome to Chicago and Untouchable Tours. And you're?
Justine.
Justine.
Nice to meet you.
We're going to talk about Al Capone today. My wheelman is Lefty, and my partner is Al Dente.
Al dente.
Just the right. Hey, I tell you what, Lefty, put an egg in your shoe and beat it.
Where did Al Capone come from?
Al was born in Brooklyn, New York, so he was actually an American.
So why did he come to Chicago?
He was avoiding that murder rap. You know, he had killed a fellow, an Irish guy in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, it was a bum rap, though. It was attempted murder. If he wanted to murder the guy had been murdered, and once he was dead, he'd have stayed dead.
Ended up meeting a fellow named Johnny the Fox Torrio. This was the very first place that Al Capone worked. This was the famous club, the Four Deuces. And had the address of 2222 South Wabash. So like a hand of cards, they called it the Four Deuces Club. And Al's job originally here was to stand here as a roper, roping guys into the place. Come on in, come on in. Hey, you, over here, over here. The whole first floor was a bar, the second floor was gambling, and the third and the fourth floor was girls.
Girls? Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah, nice girls.
He was only making $25 a week right now. Remember, he just was starting out.
Which ain't bad money in the 1920s, but you ain't gonna get rich off of it. Hit it, Lefty.
So how did Al Capone become top dog?
Murder. He and Johnny the Fox Torrio, most people agree, probably set up a hit, along with perhaps Colosimo's wife, to have Big Jim Colosimo knocked out of the ball game. Once Colosimo was out of the way, all the money was wide open to them. Al gets a permit to go ahead from the U.S. government and to start producing a maltine ale. This was beer with the alcohol boiled off, technically all street legal. They would produce the beer here, put it into barrels, and ship it all the way across Chicago to all of Al's illegal speakeasies. Once they got it inside the place, the guys would come with veterinarian syringes, literally filled with 180 proof pure alcohol. And right into the bung, the center cork of the barrel, they would inject them to give it the punch the guys were looking for. He had it all set up, but the one thing he really needed was the north side of Chicago. And the only way to get it was to eliminate Big George Bugs Moran, the leader of the north side.
He didn't like to call Bugs, though. He liked to be called Big George, because Bugs, it meant you were crazy. You were out of your mind. You had bugs in your head. Should be in the bug house.
So sure enough, they tell Bugs Moran to beat his garage, expect a truckload of liquor, have the money. Bugs Moran...
He was late.
He was late.
Lucky for him, he was late. He was late for his own funeral.
So, Justine, this is the most infamous spot in all of Chicago gangster history.
Do you know what happened right here on this spot?
I don't. I do not have a clue.
It's not gruesome, is it?
Yeah, this is where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurred.
Al Capone sent his people down dressed as police officers, and they mowed down 7 people.
They each pull a Thompson submachine gun. 50 bullets in each can. 45 caliber bullets, and for the next 11 seconds, they stand there and cut them down. You know, the city, of course, is not tremendously happy with this spot. It was donated to the old folks' home so that it would never become anything else.
What does the city think about your tours, the Untouchable tours?
Doesn't exist.
What do you mean, doesn't exist? When you call the tourism board in Chicago, what do they say?
They would literally say to you, I'm pretty sure they're out of business a couple of years
really?
now.
They really don't like the gangster story.
I'm leaving Chicago to explore the Midwest on the legendary Route 66. The first leg starts in Chicago and winds some 300 miles down to St. Louis, but I'm picking it up in Wilmington.
This is it. So we're looking for John and Lenore. John, look at these cars. Wow. Excuse me, do you know, hi, is this your car?
Yeah.
God, it's beautiful.
Thank you. It's a 57 Thunderbird.
Oh, it's stunning.
Thanks.
No, I'm looking for, John and Lenore. Lenore, hi.
Hi.
I'm Justine.
Hi, Justine.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Justine.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is great.
We'll show you what Route 66 in Illinois is all about today.
Yeah.
And what a better way of doing
Yeah.
it than having these classic cars.
Right,
So that's what we like to do.
And is that an original color on that Chevrolet? Is that pink color original?
Yes, it is.
That's a stunning color, huh?
This is our car.
Oh,
My
I was
car,
wondering.
my
It's
wife's
beautiful. I love the color of this.
We recently just did the Route 66
Yeah,
trip all
yeah.
the way to
The whole thing.
Santa Monica.
So
we pride ourselves
Route
on that.
66 goes from where to where?
Chicago to Santa Monica, California. Actually, it's 2,448 miles, and we were privileged to do it 2 months ago and cover 4,792 miles round trip.
It would take a week to drive to Santa Monica, so I'm traveling just the short 200-mile stretch from Wilmington down to Springfield.
What they did is they attached the towns with additional paving. As a result, here in Illinois, that created 300 miles of continuous paved road, and that was remarkable in its day.
Built in the 1920s, John Steinbeck called Route 66 the Mother Road, the road of flight and the glory road to the land of second chance.
It's a labor of love introducing these people to the real Americana, Route 66. It's hometown America, and it brings them a sense of time and place of where it all started and what life was like in the slow lane.
We're not being passed up by semis. I can pull off the road now. I can smell the flowers. I can take a picture. I can have a picnic. This is the way things were. That's the way things still are. And isn't that wonderful?
A beard, that's rough. And overgrown is better than a chaperone. Burma shave.
You know, Route 66 is just loaded with gimmicks. It's a commercial road.
Number 50.
Wait till she sees what I've got for her now. All right, special of the house is here. Chili cheese fries for you.
Chili cheese fries.
And a Green River. Okay, let's try this out.
All right, bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Now, how do they do this? They put
I
the
get
chili on top of the French fries, and then they add the cheese sauce.
Looks that way. Give it a try. I'm anxious to see what you think of it.
It's gorgeous. Oh,
Good
this
food.
is fantastic. All right, so now this is the river drink.
Try the Green River.
Excellent.
And not many places we can still get a Green River.
My goodness, look at that color.
The people from the 50s remember what a Green
Now,
River
is this a
tastes
natural green color?
like. I have no idea.
Organic green?
But of course,
Organic green.
Organic green. Organic green. Here's living.
Oh, a little bit of a lime flavor to it, yeah.
They're delicious when you taste them an hour later down the road.
It's one of the things you should go as a traveler. And I think it's just because of the American spirit that still attracts, I guess, Europeans, the real America. And I think, well, Route 66 has it all.
Chow down.
Enjoy.
Do it.
I say no more chili cheese fries. I say no more chili cheese fries. I say no more chili cheese fries. No more chili cheese fries. I say no.
For doing Route 66, let's do Route 66. See it, feel it, taste it, touch it. They went to the local restaurants, the mom and pop restaurants, to the mom and pop gas stations. There were no franchise businesses. Those same people, or descendants of them, are still on the road. Isn't it wonderful that we can go back and relive what your parents or maybe grandparents experienced? What a wonderful way for living history.
John and Lenore dropped me off in Atlanta, 10 miles shy of Springfield.
I have something for you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Something to remember your trip on Route 66. A very worthwhile gift, because now that you're a roadie, this is a book that was written by me and Lenore.
Yeah? Oh, yeah?
And not only is it going to let you
Oh,
remember...
you wrote a book? Let's see that.
Yeah.
What a great memento.
And it's personally autographed.
Oh, really?
Just for
Oh,
you.
that's really sweet. Look at that. Very handsome. Should say goodbye to the car. Goodbye. Goodbye. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Gorgeous car.
Goodbye, sweetie.
See you later. You too.
Have a safe trip.
I will. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Have fun. Thank you.
Springfield has been the capital of Illinois since 1837. It has a mere population of 109,000 people, although visitors descend upon it throughout the year, and that's because it's the home of the 16th President of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln studied law and politics here between 1837 and 1861. He worked out of the Herndon law offices, and it is here that he wrote his first inaugural address as President of the United States.
President Abraham Lincoln is one of the best-loved American presidents of all time, and one of my heroes, and he lived right here on Jackson Street. It's not every day you get to meet a president, so I've dressed a bit smart. What's great about Lincoln is he proved the American dream, that anybody can become somebody. He only had 1 year of formal education. He was a self-taught man. He became a prominent lawyer right here in Springfield. As president, he's largely credited with abolishing slavery and for ending the Civil War by bringing the South back into the Union. It says it right here. Abraham Lincoln. They didn't use numbers back then. Okay, do I look all right? So he lived in this house with his wife Mary and their 4 kids from 1844 to 1861. But it's 1860 today. He's been elected president, but he hasn't been inaugurated yet.
Oh, excuse me, I'm just a trifle indisposed. I'll be right back.
I guess he's got a lot on his mind. After all, the Civil War is looming.
Please come in.
Oh, thank you.
I apologize, but I wasn't quite ready.
Oh, it's a pleasure and an honor, Mr. President Lincoln.
President-elect.
President-elect.
I've just been elected president. I'm president-elect.
You have a lovely house.
Would you like a little tour?
Oh, I would love a tour.
Oh, Mrs. Lincoln is away at the moment, but I don't think she'll mind. I can tidy things up as we go. This is our formal, dear, this letter. I was going to tell you this is our formal parlor. It's another death threat.
Did you get those off?
Oh, look at it. No, don't look at it. They're very depressing. This is our formal parlor, and it's used primarily for the best entertaining. In fact, it was in this room that I was formally notified that I would be the Republican candidate for the United States presidency. It's a nice day. Our conveyance is right over yonder.
So where are we going today, Mr.
We have to get to the station very quickly. And
Well, we have a driver waiting for you, Mr. President, and here's your ticket for 2.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elvis.
Yes, and have a nice ride. Your driver will be Mr. Randy Duffy.
A ride around Springfield City Center by the energy-efficient pedal-powered pedicab costs $10 an hour.
All right, so it's not Abraham Lincoln. He's Fritz Klein. He's the most well-known impersonator of Abraham Lincoln. Do you just go all over the country playing Abraham Lincoln?
I've performed in 36 states, and I'd like to do more locally, and I do more locally recently, but everything is full of variety, and I like that.
Yeah. What's the strangest thing anyone's ever asked you to do?
Besides riding a pedicab?
Abraham Lincoln boarded the train for Washington, D.C. on February 11, 1861. In his farewell speech to the citizens of Springfield, he promised to return, and he never did.
In my situation could appreciate my feeling of sadness at this parting. I now leave, not knowing when or whether ever I may return, with a task before me greater than that which rested upon Washington.
During his first term as president, Abraham Lincoln passed the Emancipation Proclamation freeing the slaves. But this upset a lot of people, and indeed his worst nightmare came true. On April 14th, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated shortly after being elected to his second term. He was assassinated by an actor, John Wilkes Booth. He was buried right here. Oak Ridge Cemetery is the second most visited cemetery in the United States. 1 million people a year come to Springfield to pay homage to President Abraham Lincoln. That's for good luck.
The tomb was completed in 1874 and was funded by public donations. The bronze statues were built by renowned Vermont sculptor Larkin Mead. Abraham Lincoln, his wife Mary, and 3 of his 4 sons are buried here. I now fly 600 miles to Cleveland, Ohio. It's bordered by Lake Erie and portions of Michigan and Indiana in the west. I make my journey across rolling hills into Holmes County and the village of Berlin, adopted home of the Amish community. The Amish are a group of dissenting Christians who grew out of the Anabaptist movement of Germany and Switzerland. Persecuted by church and state, they came to the New World in 1720 in order to maintain their simple and devout lives. There are 125,000 Amish in North America today. They shun modern conveniences, dress plainly, and rely on farming and furniture making to make their living.
I'm in the heart of the Amish community, and but you're not supposed to film the Amish, right? Is that true? We're not supposed to film Amish people,
No.
and you're an Amish person, so we shouldn't be filming you. Right, okay, so no filming, none of that. So I'll be seeing lots of them, but you won't. I'm so excited. Today I'm going to be working on an Amish farm. And this is a unique opportunity because the Amish generally don't like outsiders in their community. So we can't film their faces, and I can't tell you what their real names are, but we can talk to them. A lot of the Amish still live like they did in the 17th century, which means there's no electricity, running water, automobiles, washer, dryer, refrigerator, freezer, television, telephones, computers, email, iPod, cell phone, microwave.
Hi.
You Miriam?
Yes, you're Justine?
Yes, I am. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I have a lot in store for you today.
To my relief, Miriam, a former member of the Amish community, is here to point me in the right direction.
We wash it over here. We have our,
You don't have a washing machine, right?
Yes. Well, so all the water that's used for everything in the house comes from this pump. All the water comes from this pump from these kind of Amish people.
So this is sort of a very austere group of Amish called the what?
The Schwarzentrooper Amish.
Schwarzentrooper Amish.
They're the strictest of all the Amish.
Okay.
They make their own clothes. They play outside. They work outside, so their clothes get really dirty.
Look at that. Isn't that a cute little dress? Hello? Hi. Miriam said it'd be all right if I came in.
Yes, that's okay.
But
yes.
there is a camera behind you.
Okay,
just so you know, I know
okay.
I don't want to show your face or anything.
Sure.
But I was curious to know what you were doing here.
Yes, making a basket
Yeah,
here.
I see. That's a beautiful basket.
The woodwork has been goes all the way back into the early 1900s that we've worked with wood. And so therefore it's another source of income. They do call it Amish furniture, and I don't like that. And it's a culture. It's not a religion. A lot of people think this Amish is a religion. It's a culture. It's a lifestyle. We choose to live this way because we feel that it's a better lifestyle than what the English people would have.
Like my lifestyle.
Like your lifestyle.
Do you think your lifestyle is better than my lifestyle?
I do. We have peace. I feel there's much more peace in our society, in our area.
It's going to take forever to mow the lawn, huh?
It takes a long time to mow the yard. That's what my children are for. We think that if we live this simple life, we can get to heaven easier. You know, it's about time for me to go do the chores. I have to get the cows ready to go do them chores. You want to finish this patch, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, finish mowing this, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Finish that whole
Yes, this whole patch here. Yes, just if you would, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. No problem. A lot easier with two people. All right. We got the mashed potatoes and we got the chicken here.
That's good.
There's a lot of starch on the table.
Yes,
We also have noodles.
We burn up that starch.
Yeah.
Because we believe in getting up early in the morning,
Mhm.
and because there's no electricity, we go to bed early. We just have grace. We just have silent prayer. Amen.
Amen. Okay. I'm really hungry. Looks really good. So do the young people around here like doing all this work?
Well, the young kids get a choice if they want to do this or not. Usually when they're 18, there's this period called Rumspringa, and the kids get a choice if they want to follow this kind of lifestyle or if they can leave if they want to. Like, I chose to leave. Rumspringa, it means running around, and not necessarily that it means in a rebellious way. I got baptized Amish, and then I chose to leave after that, and then that's when you get shunned.
Shunned.
Yeah, that's your
That's a
family.
big
doesn't-
word.
Yeah.
Shunned.
The word is shunned because your family doesn't have anything. They don't eat at the same table with you.
So has your family rejected you?
No, I still talk to my family. I just don't eat at the same table, and they don't accept gifts from me.
Kind of interesting to see what Amish people buy. When it comes to the supermarket, the Amish are buying just what everybody else is buying. Oh, this is, I heard about this paper, the budget. This is serving the Sugar Creek area and Amish Mennonite communities throughout the Americas. This is the paper, and here's headline news. Water found in the village of Sugar Creek's underground gas tank fueled the growth of bacteria, halting police cruisers and adding up repair bills. That's headline news in the Amish Mennonite world.
From Berlin, I take a short flight to the Motor City, better known as Detroit. Detroit put the world on its wheels with the assembly line automobile, and it also gave us Motown. 1 million people live here, of which 80% are Afro-American. Motown Records has relocated to Los Angeles, and all that remains here is a museum. However, that doesn't mean that music has left Detroit.
Hip-hop was invented in the 70s. It's a fusion of West African poetry, Latino and Caribbean rhythm and sound, and the appeal of hip-hop is universal.
Hip-hop isn't just music, it's breakdancing, graffiti, poetry.
They drag the red from room to room in a line 2 feet high. then scrunch down and crawl it the rest of the way.
And it's all happening here at Detroit's Hispanic Urban Arts Academy.
All these kids here could be somewhere else right now in the streets doing something else with all kinds of bad people, you know what I mean? I was doing bad, real bad, and I was in the gangs and stuff, and one of my friends of mine got me involved in this program. I've seen somebody actually like get shot up with an AK.
Most people have computers. In my neighborhood, they stole our computers. So you have to come here and use the resources, and you get connections. So it's like, it's relaxing, you know? It's a place where you can hide out from sometimes.
They told me if I wanted to hear more music, I should come down here and look for a couple of guys named Johnny, a.k.a. Modestine, and Marlon Milano. And they're rehearsing in this building, which they said was called The Lofts, where some of the musical greats have paid their dues, like Kid Rock.
And even the hood rats got dome that'll make you lean back. This ain't a rap, this is just the facts. We accept the hard shit.
Everybody know about his hustle, they scared for him. Moms can't talk to her, some she there for him. Everybody know about his deal in California. Shots rang out, close homies, they tried to warn him. Deal went bad on the trip to California. Mom's got a package in the well, and when she opened it, all that she seen was a box with a picture on it. Knowing what's inside, she just prayed that God loved her. Still can't believe her only son is gone from her. A face like her, so they snatched her clone from her. Now she gotta sit there, hear from the pulpit, all the nice warm words to cover the She gladly trade her life and her soul to save his, but thinking he was better off dead than boxed in. Life goes on.
So sad. That's really
That's taking everything that goes on every day and putting it into motion in words. And that's the song that I just did a video for, because that is true. I actually know a person that happened to.
Hip-hop is really like for the moment, like what you're feeling right then, like all your emotional, what you're going through, everything that's in your surroundings that you're really feeling at the time, and you filter that energy in music that you wouldn't normally just come off the rip and just say, that's what I want to use.
How do you come up with stuff off the top of your head?
You know what? That's a question.
Can you just teach me something? Like, how can I do that? I want to learn how to do that.
Easy. It's about presence, swagger, the way you come in, and also words. Now, you know, it's off the top, okay? You could say something like, look at your hair, look at your shoes.
Your shoes are untied. I could say that.
You can say your shoes are untied, but you gotta follow up. Your shoes ain't matching, your shirt ain't matching.
Gets real physical.
Right.
Well, how about if I do a travel one?
Okay.
Let's see. I've been to Mali and Ouagadougou. I climbed Cotopaxi and Machu Picchu. I've worn lots of boots out on all these shoots, but I'm really happy to be in Detroit, which really suits me.
Oh, she getting hot now, yes.
Henry Ford was the man to see. He invented Model T in 1903. I'm in his museum in Dearborn, Michigan. There's so much to see inside. Come along for the ride. Peace.
The Henry Ford Museum offers an impressive homage to the motor car and its impact on the United States of America. The museum began as far back as 1906 as Henry Ford's personal collection of historic objects. It's the largest indoor-outdoor museum in the United States of America.
November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated while riding in that car. At the time, it was blue and it was a convertible. Then they decided to paint it black and armor plate it, figuring it'd be cheaper than buying a new one. Since then, that car has been used by Presidents Johnson, Nixon, Carter, and Ford. This is the Model T, and it was this car that made Henry Ford the richest man in the world. It was his idea to design a car that anybody could afford, an everyman car. And he calculated by paying his own workers a little more money, they would then be able to afford the very cars that they were manufacturing. From 1908 to 1927, 17 million Model Ts were produced. And Henry Ford could do that because he perfected the automated assembly line, he invented the idea of interchangeable car parts, and he became known as the father of mass production.
Boy, I don't know. Let's hope we can make it back home.
Well, maybe we should stop. We shouldn't take any chances.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there, it's died. Oh, geez, we're going to have to crank start this vehicle.
Crank start this vehicle?
Yep, okay.
How do you do that?
Well, first thing we got to do is we got to get out of the vehicle, but we want to engage the emergency lever because we don't want that rolling forward on us.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I got to adjust the spark, have that all the way up, and going to open up the throttle so there's some gas flowing.
All right. And
One more time. I feel that you're going to get
it. Push it in. And I'm getting it. Almost.
You did it! Wow! Hey! Hey! This is my baby.
Can we go about 50 years that way where the cars are a little more straightforward?
Congratulations! Marvelous! You'll sleep on that arm tonight, eh?
Henry Ford was born in 1863. He was one of 6 children, and he grew up on a farm here in Dearborn.
This is the farmhouse where Henry Ford was born and raised.
The Henry Ford Museum is a 12-acre site, and the grounds outside are better described as a village. Many of these historic buildings are exact replicas of the originals, and some were brought here brick by brick, like this Cotswold cottage. He became an engineer with the Thomas Edison Illuminating Company in 1891, and working with Edison, Ford developed his own self-propelling vehicle, the quadricycle.
And this is Thomas Edison's laboratory, where he perfected the incandescent light bulb, invented the phonograph. He has over 1,093 patents to his name, more than anyone else.
The Midwest is dominated by the Great Lakes, and I head to one of the states on the shores of Lake Superior, Wisconsin. Lake Superior is the Earth's largest lake by surface volume, that is, containing 10% of the world's fresh water. Its most striking location is the Apostle Islands, an archipelago of 21 islands off the point of Bayfield County. The islands are the ancestral home of the Ojibwe Indians, otherwise known as the Chippewa. The Ojibwe once thrived by hunting, fishing, and farming in the rivers and forests of Lake Superior.
You can get to these islands by kayak, motorboat, sailboat, excursion boat, and in the winter when this lake freezes over, you can get here by snowmobile or by cross-country ski.
Many of the island's coasts have been eroded by the lake's frequent squalls, freezing winters, and thawing summers. It makes for some stunning rock formations.
This is Sand Island. And this stone, this brown stone, you might recognize it. This is the very stone that was used to rebuild Chicago after the Great Fire. Remember the Monadnock building? It was made out of that stuff. Go for a swim. Great. This is so nice. They have these campsites on some of the islands. This is brilliant. You come here with some friends, go camping, have a barbecue, stars at night, maybe see some animals,
a lot of black bear around here. I've been hearing stories about that, and they're attracted to the campsites because they're attracted to the food. That's why they have those bear lockers to lock all the food away. You know, it's probably not a very good idea for me to be alone here with the food.
After a long trek, I'm ready for a traditional Wisconsin fish boil, a recipe from the Scandinavian loggers and farmers who settled here at the turn of the 19th century. It's basically whitefish caught fresh from the lake, red potatoes, chopped onions, and a smattering of salt, all boiled in a great big kettle pot.
So you got to keep the water at a boil?
You have to keep it a steady boil.
Steady boil.
And that's why they call it fish boil. They don't call it fish simmer. And see, the potatoes and onions are on the bottom. Look out now. Woo! Hot stuff coming through.
Oh, they're about to take it out. Oh, it smells so good. This is the kind of food I like. Look at how delicious that looks, how clean. This is whitefish, straight from Lake Superior. And it's just been boiled for 7 minutes. Pardon me, I'm using my fingers. It tastes like lobster. And it was gorgeous.
From the Apostle Islands, I cross the Duluth Bridge into neighboring Minnesota, and my final destination, Deer River. Millions come to experience Minnesota's great outdoors. It has 10,000 lakes, and 35% of the state is made up of forest. I'm visiting White Oak, a former trading post established by the first French settlers in the 17th century. 3 times a year, Charles Augy and his wife Mary Jean organize the White Oak Rendezvous, a faithful reenactment of the life of the voyageur. The voyageurs were hired paddlers who established a fur trade with the Indian tribes, swapping cloth, copper cookware, beads, and guns in return for beaver pelts. During their expeditions, voyageurs would paddle up to 18 hours a day by canoe and carry up to several 90-pound packs on their back, on foot, and often across harsh terrain to their trading post. I'm having a go at carrying just one of the 90-pound packs.
Tom's one like that.
You're welcome to.
Okay. Is that okay? Is that how they did it? Do I look very ladylike?
Very ladylike.
Thank you. I just can't imagine really having to do this for 9 miles. Good Lord. The advantage to going faster is you get this over with more quickly. You know, it's one thing to read about the fact that they carried 90-pound bundles, but it's another thing to do it.
Good job, Christine. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fine job. Here, let me take the back off.
All right.
You will make a fine voyager.
Thank you.
Very fine job.
Wow.
What did you think of that?
Well, it was, you know, it was good to really experience that. God, is there a place I can get a massage and rendezvous? They did that
Maybe
back
some
then,
post,
yeah.
not this post, no.
Is this your little home?
Yeah, for a time. For a time.
Nice. The mosquitoes are pretty bad out here, aren't they?
Not at all.
No? You don't have trouble with mosquitoes? What's the trick?
What's the trick? Well, don't wash.
Don't wash. I'll remember that. If there was one thing a kid could learn from the experience of being at this rendezvous, what would it be?
Probably to appreciate the fact that history in itself is not boring. We just go around having fun. We're playing. Those of us that are dressing this way are nothing but old kids.
Are these real? They
Yes,
sure
they
look
are.
real.
Those are wolf hides.
Wow.
This is a timber wolf, probably the largest of the canines here in North America. His little cousin here is coyote.
And you can see that genetically, these two are very similar, a lot of common DNA between the two. Lynx, one of the felines, along with the bobcat. And most people confuse the two, although you can see the bobcat, got a lot of spots on it, and that lynx is very soft. And if you feel the underside, it's just as soft as a kitten there on the underside.
Hmm.
This is the beaver.
Beaver.
This is the fur that brought the white man across North America up into the Rocky Mountains.
Really?
The beaver was actually worth more than gold, and they used it to make felt hats.
Felt was the fabric of the time?
Oh, indeed. Well, the felt hat was.
Pour the powder into there.
This is the black powder?
Yeah, this is the black powder. Right down that barrel. There you are. Put the patch over the hole, over the barrel. Put the ball right on top.
Ball right on top.
There you are. And just keep tapping it until it goes all the way down. Yep, all the way down.
Now this is for hunting, right?
Yeah.
Is this also for war?
Yeah, they used to, this is what they used when they fought in the Civil War in the early days, yep.
Must have taken forever to load and load and
they found people when they really got excited and loading, when the enemy was coming at them, they even found some of the enemy with the ramrod stuck in them because they got so excited they didn't pull the ramrod out and they shot. Now we're gonna get a cap. That goes on the end here. That goes on this nipple. You can carry the gun over there.
Oh my God, this could kill a man.
Don't touch that front trigger yet. Yeah, you can get back there, sir, a little bit. If you no farther than that.
And when I'm aimed, then I pull that trigger.
Yeah, just watch it so you don't touch that front trigger till you're ready.
Oh, because it's ready
to go. Just pull the trigger.
The longer you stay at the White Oak Rendezvous, the more you get a sense of what life was like up here at the Great Lakes 200 years ago.
You know, Justine, I am Pascal, quite possibly the greatest voyageur that ever lived.
Yeah?
I've had many wives and a few good dogs, and one very close friend. And the lives of many men have been in Pascal's care. Now, granted, some of these men were good men, and some of these men were no good. But Pascal's care of them was always the same. And I've spent all I've ever made in earthly pleasures, and I have nothing to show for my life but the memories thereof. But if the good God above would let me live my life over, I'd live it in the same way. For such is the life of a voyageur.
The rendezvous climaxes in Dad's Tavern, where everyone takes part in a raucous evening of carousing and dancing to old French songs.
Well, I didn't expect that my trip to the Midwest would be such a whirlwind tour through American history. I've been to a 17th century trading port. I met with President Lincoln, I sat in a Model T, and I ate a chili cheese fry. I also didn't expect to meet so many effusive, generous, passionate people in the Midwest. And what they don't expect is that 250 years forward, they're going to be listening to hip-hop. The food's going to be somewhat better. There'll be planes, trains, and automobiles.
All the world's a stage, and at no better time than when it rolls out its great festivals. From a luminous New Year greeting in Taiwan to a Christmas rejoicing in Dickensian England, the calendar year bequeaths a host of the most enjoyable festivities to be had. Join travelers Christina Chang, Neil Gibson, Zay Harding, Katie Haswell, Megan McCormick, Shilpa Mehta, Ian Wright, and myself, Justine Shapiro, on another world trip to the most vibrant festivals on the planet. The Chinese New Year is celebrated on the first day of the Chinese lunar calendar, which takes place at the end of January or at the beginning of February, a fitting place to begin our journey. It's celebrated all over the world with big parades in New York, London, and the biggest in the Western Hemisphere, San Francisco. Asia sees some superb festivities, especially in Hong Kong and Singapore. All the Chinese New Year festivals have common elements such as dragon dances and fireworks, but there are regional differences, and some of the most unusual New Year celebrations take place in Taiwan. In southeast Taiwan, the New Year celebrations revolve around the worship of the god Hantha. Legend has it that the god Hantha is extremely sensitive to cold. The point of this festivity is to warm Hantha by throwing firecrackers at him. Young men taking the role of the god are paraded standing atop of a chair wearing only shorts and a scarf. Hundreds of firecrackers are then fired directly at them in a ritual they call the bombing of the god. After the event, most men have burns, flaky skin, and wounds over 80% of their body.
This festival only happens here in Taidong. We want to thank the god for helping us. It is also to get rid of all bad luck.
As the lunar year comes to a close, other parts of Taiwan prepare to celebrate New Year in their own unique way. In the town of Yangshui in southwest Taiwan, celebration consists of firing hundreds of rockets straight into a crowd of thousands that have gathered to experience this adrenaline-crazed event.
A helmet is very important. In case the firecracker explodes in your face, we cover it with a scarf. If you're still afraid, then wear a face mask.
As night falls, 300,000 people cram into the streets in eager anticipation of this year's onslaught of beehive rockets. But of all the New Year celebrations and festivities, the Taiwanese keep the best for last. To the Taiwanese, it is during the Lantern Festival, the 15th day of the New Year, when the festive mood reaches its climax. Overall, the Lantern Festival costs Taiwan nearly $1 million. Lanterns represent brilliance, and Taiwanese carry them during this time so the luminescence will guide them to heaven. The day is also referred to as Chinese Valentine's Day, and singles gather to play matchmaking games with lanterns to determine who will be their lover.
When the lanterns are released, it's such a peaceful sight. At that moment, I wish that the world would be united in peace and harmony.
March takes us to 3 festivities in New Zealand. First up, Zay Harding travels to Masterton for the International Gold Sheep Shearing Festival.
Competitors, get set, go!
New Zealanders are renowned as the world's top shearers. The best, like 5 times world champion David Fagan, can shear up to an incredible 700 sheep in a 9-hour day. That's one every 45 seconds.
This is the Wimbledon of shearing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one everyone wants to win. I don't particularly like sheep, really.
Yeah.
They're necessary evil.
Once a year, the Maori Regatta, held in Ngaruawahia, is a perfect opportunity for travelers to meet the Maoris. The Maoris first came to New Zealand around 1,000 years ago, traveling hundreds of miles from the Polynesian islands in the South Pacific in large canoes. Ever since, canoes have been an integral part of Maori culture.
All Māori are descended from a canoe, from a particular waka. So those of us who are from this area, from Waikato, we are all descendants of the Tainui canoe.
Each canoe at the regatta is commanded by a respected tribal leader with a lifetime of experience on the river.
Oh, it's something that I've practiced ever since I was a bailer, and then worked my way up to a row. Position was given to me by my people. Having the skills and the calling, knowing the chants, knowing the hakas, knowing the bends on our river, and knowing the river.
Down in South Island, New Zealand's gold mining port Hokitika offers up a wild foods festival.
Hi there.
Hello. What are we selling here?
Got some cupcakes?
Yeah.
Excellent. Got some pies?
The festival commemorates the anniversary of the town, a one-year event that celebrates the eccentric ways of the Wild West Coast.
Did you get one?
Did you chew it or swallow it?
Swallow.
12 beers, they're not bad.
Some 80 food stalls serve up a great selection of local delicacies.
Duck tongues, magpie pie, fish eyes, and sheep testicles.
A great local festival also has its fair share of eccentricities, some cultural, some daft, an opportunity not to be missed. Here are some of the strangest festivals the world has dreamt up.
Meet Mrs. Gibson.
At the top of the list is one of the world's most unusual racing events, the Wife-Carrying Festival, which takes place in Sonkajärvi, Finland, in July. The competition has its roots buried in an old local tradition, the 19th century practice of wife-stealing. Competitors race around a 250-meter track, jump over hurdles and through a pond with their wives on their backs. For the men, there's some consolation. The winner takes home the woman's weight in beer. If you want to vent your anger, then there's a testosterone-fueled festival in Italy around June.
This is the most insane thing I have ever seen. I'm going to try and explain the rules, although I don't think there are any. It's like 27 geezers on each side, yeah? Half naked, sweaty, running around, kicking the hell out of each other. Oh yeah, and there's a ball in there as well somewhere.
Calcio Storico is a rudimentary football game staged in Florence, which dates from the Renaissance. Its origins lie in the ancient ball games of the Greeks and Romans, who played it to prove their strength and combativeness, usually for the benefit of the gentle ladies in attendance. Players try by any means to get hold of the ball and score cachet.
I think that's like the end of the match. The green? No, the blue team won. I thought it was the green. And the referee got a kick in at the end.
Another male bonding festival devised during the Renaissance kicks off in England, and it's called the Cotswold Olympics. Events include trials of skill and strength in the most bizarre, noble art of shin kicking.
Two guys fight for the woman of their dreams.
Really?
Yeah.
How do they do it?
Well, you get hold of each other by the shoulders, and you've got to drop him twice by kicking his shin.
Look at that. They
eccentric England also offers up the Birdmen or Bognor Festival, which takes place on the Sussex coast in late August.
The Bognor Birdman has a simple mandate. Create a non-powered flying machine and hurl it off Bognor Pier. If, and this has never happened, it travels 300 feet, a prize of £25,000 will be awarded. Some will be lucky to travel 3. Is the hat a fashion statement, or does it serve a purpose?
No, it's supposed to have a function.
It's for a
Because
function.
your head is 10% of your body weight, something like that.
In Bali, Hindus celebrate the New Year during the spring equinox, which falls between March and April.
Today is the eve of Nyepi, the Balinese New Year, one of the biggest Hindu festivals. Everywhere people are making preparations to scare away the bad spirits from the old year and bring good luck to the new.
This is the head of the devil of the moon, and he's the person that creates eclipses. And by lifting him up, right, and turning him around, they get rid of him so he won't swallow the moon anymore. Oh my God.
The idea is to disorientate the devil so he's too confused to work his evil way.
Yeah, see you guys.
To scare away the bad spirits, people compete to create the most foul-looking effigies of demons known as ogu ogu, which they carry through the streets.
Hinduism on Bali is a mixture of Buddhist, Hindu and animist beliefs. For Bali to have good luck and prosperity over the next year, everyone tries to make this ceremony a big success. At all festivals, the initial ritual involves offerings of food, flowers and money to the gods. The idea is to make as much noise as possible to scare away the bad spirits. At the end of the evening, they will burn the agu agu to banish the evil spirits in the coming year. The day after, the whole island will shut down and people will stay in their homes all day long. Spring arrives in Russia in April, but who would ever know it? Ian Wright visits Murmansk for the Festival of the North. The festival marks an end for the 2-month Arctic night, where the sun does not rise above the horizon.
The Festival of the North is a great party. It is like a celebration of the beginning of the spring, as you can see. This is not in the winter, look at this!
The skiing marathon is organized by the Committee for Sports and Tourism and costs €9 to enter.
I don't believe they're going uphill.
About 1,200 people compete, including the Russian Olympic team.
How far? Where have all the skiers gone? That way? Where are they? Where are the skiers? Have they gone up there? Straight on.
Along with the skiing, events at the festival include skating, ice hockey, and amazingly, underwater swimming.
That's the best pants so far. Look at that blue pair of trunks there. Look at that guy in the end. Fantastic. Which one do you fancy?
The event is organized by the Walrus Club, whose members are dedicated ice hole swimmers. And it's a tradition originally celebrated by Russian Orthodox Christians as a way of rejoicing the baptism of Christ, but that's probably the last thing on Ian Wright's mind right now.
Most stupidest thing I've ever done. What you got to do is straight in, no hesitation. Help! certificate. See, where is it?
Heading to sunnier climes, the month of May brings forth a festival of bloody ritual in Ghana, Africa, as Megan McCormick discovers.
The Abuacha Festival happens once a year at the beginning of May. Two opposing teams of warriors take off into the bush at dawn, where they compete to catch a deer with their bare hands. It can take them several hours, and the first company back with the deer wins.
This is absolutely incredible. They've caught the deer. It's only been about 2 hours since they first started. They catch it by hand. They've got it hoisted up on their shoulders, still alive. Looks like the red team won. And they're just kind of running around, this big flush of people everywhere. What happened? That person in the middle actually caught it? Oh, you can see it.
As with any big festival, it's hard to work out what exactly is happening. But my friend George offered to come with me and explain it all.
What is going on over here?
They are catching this deer to sacrifice to the gods. Before, in ancient days, they were using human beings.
They used to use humans? Wow. How come it's so still? Why isn't it panicking and
Well,
moving?
they have done the rituals to hypnotize the deer.
A ritual is performed and the deer is made as an offering to the tribal gods, who will remove any evil in the town and predict the next harvest for the fishermen and farmers. Once the deer is slaughtered, it is bound, held high, and the victorious warriors parade their prize around the town for all to see. The gods are appeased for another year, and the festival carries on throughout the weekend.
In June, Ian Wright is back in England where he travels to the largest music event in the world.
If you've only got time to go to one festival, it has to be Glastonbury. It's like the biggest, the weirdest, and the most famous there is. Anything your heart desires, it will be there. And anybody who's anybody will be there. So getting a lift should be no problem.
The Glastonbury Festival of Contemporary Performing Arts takes place over a weekend on a farm in Pilton in Somerset.
This is where it all began, the first Glastonbury on a hot summer's weekend in 1970. Then it was £1 to get in, and Mark Bolan's T-Rex was the #1 act. Pyramid tents down there, that's where the main bands are. Behind that is like dance music. Here is Weldon Jazz. Great bands, groovy dancing, and an excuse for everyone to have a good time all the time.
But in Glastonbury, although the good times are guaranteed, the sunshine isn't.
It's not funny, yeah? Just put my tent, this is Steve, he's helped me put my tent up with his eyes, yeah? But I'm not being funny, I'm just so lucky. Because it is chock-a-block campsites, there is no room to put your tent up at all. And where I was going to put my tent up, over there, the whole field's been washed out. There's actually tents floating down the river. It's madness.
Mud. Who cares?
Most years, up to 2 inches of rain fall in Glastonbury, often leaving people knee-deep in mud. The festival has its roots in the hippie culture and the free festival movement of the late 60s, and it coincides with the summer solstice.
That bit there, that is like the Greenfields, that's where I'm heading, that's like the Twilight Zone. Whee!
As well as music, the festival offers up all sorts of quirky, alternative healing practices.
Take a deep breath, breathe in.
Every adult should laugh at least 50 times a day to remain healthy. I swear that's good. I'm still laughing now, that is brilliant.
All that laughing can certainly loosen you up a bit, but try and avoid the toilet.
Don't go in there.
From free love to contractual union, one of the things you can do at Glastonbury is to get married for the weekend.
Oh, will you marry me?
Beautiful. This is a mental tent. What you do, you get headphones, yeah? And you tune them into the sounds, so there's no sounds around it, it's just coming through your ears. Woo! Don't ask me, I don't understand it. You know? What's that about? You turn them off, you can't hear a thing. It's like it's dead. Absolutely dead. You put it on.
In July, Zay Harding visits Canada for what has been billed as the greatest outdoor show on Earth, the Calgary Stampede. The city of Calgary is situated in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It shares a history of ranching and farming and is a place that visitors come to when they want to experience Canada's Wild West.
The parade gives Western Canada's widely mixed community a chance to strut their stuff. The main events of the Stampede take place in the Grandstand Arena. Bull riding, chuck wagon racing, steer wrestling, bronco riding, and even the kids get involved. They're called mutton busters.
So what are we watching here, Kurt? Well, we're watching steer wrestling. That was a good one. It's a tricky little sport. I heard one fella say, you know, when he was trying to make an impression on somebody who hadn't seen it before, it's kind of like hanging out your car window, go 40 miles an hour, and then just grab the next mailbox you see.
These guys really take a beating. Good thing there's a medical tent nearby. Another tradition you have to try at the Stampede can be found at Buzzard's Restaurant. Prairie oysters, a cowboy delicacy.
We've got au naturel. Kind of rubbery. We've got mixed nuts. That one's quite good. And we've got great balls of fire. It's a bit sweeter. I prefer the mixed nuts. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, prairie oysters are bull's balls.